As you read these words, right at this very moment, millions of men around the world are being systematically destroyed in their own relationships. They wake up next to women who claim to love them, but feel a growing emptiness in their chest that they can't explain. They are trapped in a dynamic that erodes their masculine essence day after day, hour after hour, and they don't even realize they're dying inside. You are probably one of them. Modern society has sold you the biggest lie ever told about relationships. They told you that true love is unconditional, a magical fusion of souls where you can simply be yourself and be loved unconditionally for it. They promised you that the right woman will be your safe harbor, that she will accept you in your moments of weakness, that vulnerability strengthens the connection. Movies, songs, therapists, your own parents all repeated this romantic narrative until it became deeply rooted in your psyche. But the brutal truth that no one dares to tell you is completely the opposite. Female love is not unconditional. It never was. It never will be. It is a continuous, relentless, biologically programmed evaluation of your value as a man. Every word you say, every decision you make, every moment of hesitation or strength, everything is being tested, measured, judged. And if you fail these tests, she will no longer love you for your authenticity. She will despise you, she will manipulate you, and eventually she will discard you like a depleted resource. This is the reality the system doesn't want you to know. This is the truth that can destroy you or set you free. And after reading this, you will never see your relationship the same way again. Mark had everything. At 24, he was a promising architect with an impressive portfolio, a vibrant social circle, a passion for rock climbing, and a collection of classic cars he restored on weekends. He was confident, had purpose, knew exactly who he was. When he met Helen, she seemed perfect, intelligent, beautiful, ambitious. She admired his independence, his passion, his structured life. The first few months were intense. She constantly praised him, saying she had never met a man so complete, so different from others. Mark fell in love not only with her, but with the version of himself she reflected back to him. 6 months later, the first tests came. Small, almost imperceptible. "Are you going to spend the whole Sunday in your garage with those old cars? I was thinking we could do something together." Mark, wanting to prove she was important, canceled his plans. She smiled, satisfied. A week later, "Your friends are kind of childish, don't you think? Always drinking and making silly jokes. You're better than that." Mark initially defended his friends, but she made a hurt face, said he didn't care about how she felt. He gave in, started going out less with the group. Each concession was met with temporary approval, quickly followed by a new test, a new request, a new boundary being pushed. After the wedding, the progression accelerated exponentially. Helen convinced Mark that the Porsche 911 he had restored for 2 years was impractical and dangerous now that they planned to have children. He sold the car, bought a family SUV he hated. She suggested that Friday nights with friends were no longer appropriate for a married man. He stopped going. His sister, with whom he had a close relationship since childhood, was labeled toxic and manipulative after a single disagreement with Helen. Mark, to keep family peace, started avoiding his sister. At each point, Helen presented logical arguments, painting herself as the voice of reason, maturity, adult commitment. And Mark, trained by society to be the good husband, to prioritize domestic harmony, to prove his love through sacrifice, gave in. Year after year, piece by piece, Mark disappeared. His architecture firm, which once energized him, became just a source of income to support Helen's increasingly demanding lifestyle. His passions evaporated. His friends gave up inviting him. His sister stopped calling. He now lived in a house Helen had decorated entirely to her taste, driving a car he detested, working tirelessly to pay bills he hadn't chosen, sleeping next to a woman who constantly criticized him, but whom he still called the love of my life. When he tried to express frustration, Helen inverted everything. "You're attacking me again. Why do you always make me feel bad? I just want what's best for us." He apologized. Always apologized. At 42, Mark was an empty shell. He took medication for anxiety. He avoided looking in the mirror because he didn't recognize the man he saw. He had intrusive thoughts about simply disappearing. And then Helen filed for divorce. Not because she was unhappy with the life he had built for her, but because he had become depressed, lacking initiative, emotionally absent. She fabricated a narrative of emotional abuse, using every concession, every moment of weakness she herself had extracted from him, as evidence that he was an inadequate man. In the divorce proceedings, she took the house, half the assets he had built, got primary custody of the children, and still received substantial alimony. Today, Mark lives alone in a small apartment, works to pay bills for a life that is no longer his, sees his children on alternate weekends under hostile supervision, and spends his nights trying to remember who he was before he met her. There is no happy ending to this story. Mark lost everything because he didn't understand a fundamental truth. She never loved him. She loved what he represented, what he could provide, the value he demonstrated. And the moment he stopped passing the tests, the moment his continuous submission transformed him into something weak and contemptible in her eyes, the love instantly evaporated. You're thinking this is extreme, that your relationship is different, that your wife isn't like that. That's exactly what every man trapped in this dynamic thinks, until it's too late. Every woman tests, all of them, without exception, not because she is inherently evil or manipulative, but because she is biologically programmed to ensure that the man by her side is strong enough, capable enough, dominant enough to protect her and lead when necessary. These tests are unconscious most of the time. She doesn't wake up in the morning planning to sabotage your day. But when you demonstrate weakness, hesitation, excessive submission, something primal in her awakens. A biological alarm that screams, "This man may not be suitable. I need to test him more. I need to be sure." And the tests intensify. The first test always seems trivial, innocent. "Honey, can you pick me up from the salon at 3? I know you have that important meeting, but I really need you to." It seems like a simple request. It seems like love, mutual need, partnership. But observe what's really happening. She is measuring whether you put her needs above your own priorities. She is testing whether you have a solid frame, whether your decisions and commitments are non-negotiable, or if you are malleable, controllable. If you cancel the meeting, she won't think, "What a wonderful, loving man." Unconsciously, she will register, "He gave in easily. I can push more. I need to push more to be sure." And she will push. She always pushes more. You give in. She tests more. You give in again. She loses respect. You try to compensate. She presses harder. You explain your reasons. She distorts your words. You apologize. She temporarily accepts. The cycle repeats. You are trapped, and you don't even realize it. Criticism disguised as concern is one of the most devastating weapons in the female arsenal because it completely disables your defense. "Honey, I don't think you should spend so much time at the gym. You're becoming obsessed. I'm worried about you." It sounds like genuine care, doesn't it? But dissect the real message. She is attacking something that gives you purpose, that strengthens you, that keeps you connected to your masculinity. She is testing whether you will abandon your self-importance to validate her concern. If you reduce your gym time to reassure her, you haven't saved the relationship. You've signaled weakness. You've shown that your priorities are negotiable when she exerts emotional pressure. And now she knows, on an instinctive level, that she can mold you. The next attack will be deeper, more invasive. Your hobbies, your friendships, your alone time. Everything becomes a target because you've shown that your frame can be broken. Comparison with other men is pure poison injected directly into your sense of worth. My friend's husband took her to Paris for her birthday. It was so romantic. She's not just sharing a story. She's putting you on a scale, measuring you against a standard she knows you can't or won't reach. She's testing whether you will bend under the weight of comparison, whether you will feel inadequate and try to compensate by spending beyond your means or compromising your own priorities. The weak man hears this and panics. He immediately starts planning how he can do something equally impressive to prove his worth. The strong man hears this and feels nothing. He knows who he is, knows what he offers, and if she needs constant comparisons to feel valued, the problem is not his. After every test you fail, escalation is inevitable. She challenges your decisions directly now. You choose a restaurant for dinner, she immediately suggests another. You plan a weekend, she wants to change everything. You make a financial decision, she publicly questions your competence. Every challenge is a test. Will you hold your ground, or will you fold? And when you fold, when you rationalize that it's not worth fighting over, you are not being flexible or mature. You are training her to disrespect you. You are teaching her that your decisions are just suggestions she can veto at any time. You are building a dynamic where you become a consultative servant, not a leader. And she will despise you for it, even if she never consciously admits it. Withholding affection and sex as a control tool is when the testing becomes explicit psychological warfare. After an argument where you dared to disagree with her, she withdraws. No more casual touching, no good morning kiss, no physical intimacy. You approach, she evades. And when you finally break and ask what's wrong, she says, "I'm not in the mood. You hurt me." Now, you are conditioned, disagreeing with her results in emotional and sexual punishment, agreeing with her results in temporary approval. It's classic operant conditioning. You are being trained like an animal, and with each cycle, you lose more autonomy, more dignity. You start policing your own thoughts and words, self-censoring anything that might upset her. You are no longer a free man. You are a prisoner managing his jailer. Blame shifting is where reality is completely distorted. She yells at you, humiliates you, crosses all boundaries of basic respect. You finally react. You raise your voice back. You say her behavior is unacceptable, and immediately she becomes the victim. "Why are you attacking me? I was just expressing my feelings, and you're verbally assaulting me. You always do this. You always make me feel horrible." She cries. You, conditioned by years of social programming about never making a woman cry, feel instant guilt. You apologize. You comfort her. And she has just completely rewritten the story. You, who were attacked, are now the aggressor. She, who was abusive, is now the victim. And the next time this happens, you will hesitate even more to defend yourself, because you've learned that the punishment for resisting is to become the villain of the narrative. Isolation is the most insidious tactic, because it gradually destroys your support network. She never directly says, "I don't want you to see your friends." That would be too obvious. Instead, she plants seeds. Your friend John is kind of immature, don't you think? Always talking about women and drinking. You're so much more evolved than that. She creates drama before every social event. "Sure, go meet your friends. I'll just stay here alone, it's fine." She schedules things for you at the same time as your social commitments. "But honey, I had already planned for us to do this today. Don't you remember? Are your friends more important than me?" Each technique is designed to increase the emotional cost of maintaining your external connections until it's easier to simply not go. And when you are isolated, when your friends give up on you, when your family is distant, you no longer have an outside perspective. No one to show you that what's happening isn't normal. You only have her, and she now completely controls your reality. The veiled threat of abandonment is the nuclear weapon when other tests have failed to completely control you. "If you really loved me, you wouldn't do this. Sometimes I wonder if we should still be together. Maybe we're just not compatible." Each phrase is a psychological bomb detonated in your primal fear of loss. And if you don't have a strong frame, if your sense of worth is tied to being in a relationship, these threats paralyze you. You go into panic mode. You will do anything to avoid abandonment. You negotiate. You beg. You promise to change. And each promise is another concession, another piece of your autonomy handed over on a silver platter. She has learned that the threat works, and now it's in her permanent arsenal. The financial limit test reveals if you truly understand that your worth is not your wallet. "If you really loved me, you would give me this. It's just money. You can work more." She's not asking for an expression of love. She's testing whether you confuse provision with identity. She's measuring whether you are a man or an ATM with a pulse. The man who spends beyond his means to prove love hasn't bought genuine affection. He's bought contempt temporarily disguised as gratitude, because she now knows you can be controlled through financial manipulation. And her demands will only increase, because you have established that your willingness to sacrifice financially is the measure of your commitment. You're thinking this doesn't apply to you, that your wife is different, that your relationship has open communication, that you are equal partners. But answer honestly, how many times have you canceled something important to you because she needed you? How many friendships have you distanced yourself from because she didn't like them? How many decisions have you changed because she questioned them? How many times have you apologized for something you didn't do just to keep the peace? How many times have you felt like you were walking on eggshells in your own home? If you answered several to any of these questions, you are already trapped. You just haven't admitted it yet. The tests never stop. That's the part most men don't understand. They think that if they pass the first tests, if they prove their worth, she will finally relax and unconditional love will blossom. No, the tests evolve, adapt, intensify, because she constantly needs to know that you are still strong, that you haven't become complacent, that you still deserve her biological investment. The moment you stop passing the tests, the moment you consistently demonstrate weakness, her love does not deepen into compassion and acceptance. It disappears. It transmutes into contempt. And contempt is the beginning of the end. And now comes the part that will truly destroy you. The entire system is designed to keep you ignorant and defenseless in this dynamic. It's not an accident. It's not a coincidence. It's a cultural, legal, and institutional conspiracy to keep men like you trapped, drained, and silenced. Every institution you were taught to trust is actively working against you, ensuring that you never wake up to what's happening until it's too late to save yourself. The legal system of divorce and family custody is a male destruction machine. Laws were written under the premise that women are always the victims, and men are always the aggressors or neglectful. It doesn't matter who initiated the divorce or why. It doesn't matter who was faithful or who cheated. It doesn't matter who built the assets or who just spent them. In the vast majority of cases, she gets primary custody of the children. You pay alimony and child support. She stays in the house you paid for. And you are reduced to a weekend dad who needs her permission to see your own children. And if you question it, if you fight, you will be painted as a controlling and angry man, further reducing your chances. The system wants you to be a silent resource provider. You exist to fund her life after divorce. Your value as a father, as a human being, as a victim of manipulation, none of that matters. You are a source of income, and the system will ensure you remain one. Mark discovered this the hard way. He had evidence of psychological manipulation, isolation, emotional abuse. It didn't matter. The judge looked at him and saw a successful man who clearly could pay, and a woman who needed stability to care for the children. Mark tried to argue that he had been the primary caregiver for years. It didn't matter. He tried to show that she had systematically destroyed his mental health. The judge said that was his problem to solve, not a custody issue. Today, Mark pays over 60% of his income in support payments. He sees his children under hostile supervision, and if he misses a single payment, even if it's because he got sick and couldn't work, he will be threatened with jail. The system doesn't care about your story. It doesn't care about your pain. You are fuel to keep the machine running. The couples therapy industry is another monumental fraud. You go to a therapist believing you will find someone neutral, someone who will help unravel destructive patterns and find balance. But most modern therapists have been trained in institutions saturated with feminist ideology. They operate under the unspoken premise that women are emotionally intelligent and men are emotionally stunted, that women communicate and men shut down, that women feel deeply and men need to learn to feel. The predictable result? You will be constantly instructed to listen better, validate her feelings, work on your emotional intelligence, be more present. Meanwhile, her manipulative behavior, constant testing, chronic disrespect will be repackaged as she's just trying to feel safe or she's expressing unmet needs. You will leave each session feeling like you are the problem, that you need to change more, try harder, sacrifice more. And the destructive pattern will only deepen, now with the therapeutic seal of approval. A therapist literally told Mark, "Helen is acting this way because she doesn't feel emotionally safe in the relationship. You need to show more vulnerability, more openness." Mark tried. He shared his fears, his insecurities, his deepest doubts. Helen used every word against him. She ridiculed him in later arguments, called him weak and pathetic, used his confessions as ammunition in their divorce to paint him as mentally unstable. Therapy did not save Mark. It paved the way for his destruction. Media and entertainment hammer home the narrative that masculine sacrifice is the supreme virtue. Every movie you've watched taught you that the hero gets the girl by being persistent, tolerating rejection, proving his love through grand gestures that always involve giving up something important to him. You've seen 1,000 stories where the man abandons his dream career, his passion, his friends, to save the relationship. And this is portrayed as romantic, mature, what true love demands. You never saw the honest version where he does that, and she despises him for having become something smaller, something weaker, where he looks back 10 years later and realizes he sacrificed his identity for an illusion. Media programmed you from childhood to glorify your own annihilation, and you didn't even realize you were being conditioned. Feminist culture and education destroyed male confidence and sense of identity before you even reached adulthood. You were taught in school that men are historically oppressive, that your masculinity is toxic, that you need to unlearn your natural instincts and become more sensitive, more empathetical, more feminine. You were taught that defending masculine positions, questioning feminist narratives, expressing pride in being a man, are all forms of intolerance and privilege. And then you enter a relationship already without a frame, already doubting yourself, already conditioned to prioritize female needs over yours, and call it a virtue. You are already defeated before the first battle even begins. Are you angry now? Good. Anger means you're seeing. But anger alone won't save you. Anger without action is just resentment that corrodes you from within. An action, real action that changes your trajectory, comes at a brutal cost. So what do? You are trapped in a meticulously constructed snare by social conditioning, validated by institutions that should protect you, and maintained in place by the woman you love through tests you didn't know you were failing. You have two options. You can continue denying, rationalizing, hoping things will magically improve while more of you is drained each day and you get closer and closer to Mark's fate. Or you can wake up, accept the devastating truth, and begin the fight to reclaim your life. It won't be easy. It won't be clean. It won't be without massive losses. But it is the only way out. First action, document everything in absolute secrecy. From now on, keep a discreet but meticulous record of every test, every manipulation, every moment of disrespect. Date, time, exactly what happened, what was said, how you responded. Use a password-protected note app or a hidden physical journal. Never let her find out. This documentation serves two purposes. It validates your perception when you start to doubt yourself, and it is critical ammunition if you need to face a divorce or custody battle. The system will distort the narrative. You need concrete facts to defend yourself. Second action, rebuild your inner frame by establishing non-negotiable boundaries. Sit alone, away from her, and write down 3 to 5 boundaries you will never violate again, no matter the consequence. Examples: I will not accept public disrespect under any circumstances. I will maintain my time with my friends without justification or negotiation. My financial decisions for my own money are final and not subject to veto. Communicate these boundaries calmly, unemotionally, without excessive justification. I've decided I'm no longer willing to accept X. This is non-negotiable. And then, critically, be prepared to enforce with action when she tests, and she will test violently. If you set a boundary and then back down when she pushes, you've made your situation worse. Now, she knows that even your boundaries are just flexible requests. Third action. Immediately reclaim your social autonomy and purpose. Call those friends you abandoned. Explain that you've been absent and want to reconnect. Resume that hobby that energized you. Dedicate non-negotiable time every week to activities that connect you with your masculine identity outside the relationship. Your independence is not selfishness. It is survival. A man without his own life is a man without value, a man easily controlled. When you rebuild your autonomy, two things happen. You become stronger and less dependent on her validation. And, paradoxically, she may start to respect you more because you are no longer a guaranteed resource. Fourth action. Urgently and obsessively strengthen your independent financial base. Open a separate account she doesn't know about. Build a substantial emergency fund, a minimum of 6 months of expenses. If possible, renegotiate finances to have direct control over your own resources. Fully understand your situation, what you own, what she owns, what is joint, what would be the implications of a divorce. Discreetly consult an attorney to understand your rights and vulnerabilities. Information is power, and in a divorce, whoever is financially prepared survives. Whoever isn't is obliterated. Fifth action. Master the art of no without justification and without guilt. When she makes a manipulative request, an obvious test, you simply say no and don't explain. No, I'm not canceling my plans. No, that decision is not up for discussion. No. The full word. She will escalate. She will try to make you feel guilty. She will use anger, sadness, threats. You calmly hold your ground. Do not engage in endless arguments, trying to justify. A weak man explains. A strong man acts. Your word is final, not because you yelled louder, but because you decided and cannot be moved. Sixth action. Seek genuine male brotherhood, not female validation. Find a group of men who understand these dynamics, who have been through this, who have rebuilt their lives. Support groups, discreet online communities, individual mentors. You desperately need an outside perspective from men who haven't been captured by the conditioning. Women cannot help you with this. Conventional therapists cannot help you with this. Only men who have survived and emerged stronger have the practical knowledge of how to navigate the battlefield that is a modern relationship when you finally wake up. Seventh action. Execute the most critical mindset shift of all. Stop deriving your worth from being loved by a woman. Your value as a man is intrinsic to your capability, your purpose, your strength, your contribution to the world, your integrity with yourself. It is not determined by female approval. When you fully internalize that you are a valuable man, regardless of your relationship status, that you can attract a better woman who genuinely respects you if this one doesn't, you become unshakable. You operate from a mindset of abundance, not scarcity. And paradoxically, when you truly don't need her to validate your worth, when you are genuinely prepared to leave if necessary, the dynamic power shifts completely. Either she adjusts, and the relationship becomes genuinely respectful, or it ends, and you are free to find something real. Both outcomes are infinitely better than continuing to slowly die. But let's be brutally honest about the costs of waking up and acting. You won't simply implement these actions, and she will magically transform into a respectful partner. Most likely, when you set real boundaries and refuse to continue failing the tests, she will escalate dramatically. She will try every other method in her arsenal: extreme anger, deep victimization, emotional blackmail, threats of divorce, even false accusations if she is particularly destructive. Most relationships where the man finally wakes up end, they don't transform. And when it ends, he faces massive losses. Financially, you can lose half of everything you've built: the house, savings, retirement. You will pay support payments that can consume more than half of your income for years. You will face a legal system that assumes you are the problem. Emotionally, you will suffer the pain of separation, the loss of the dream of what you thought you had, the initial loneliness as reality adjusts. If there are children, you will face the most devastating battle of all: fighting for custody against a system that favors the mother by default, possibly being alienated from your own children by a vengeful ex-wife. Socially, mutual friends often choose sides, and rarely choose yours because she controlled the narrative. Your reputation can be tarnished by accusations you cannot publicly refute. This is the real cost of reclaiming your freedom, and you have to decide if it's worth it. Continuing as you are seems safer, less painful, but it's an illusion. The pain of remaining trapped is slow, chronic, corrosive. You die gradually over decades, until one day you are Mark at 42, looking back at the man you were and unable to understand how you allowed this to happen. The pain of leaving, on the other hand, is acute, intense, but finite. You go through hell, but you emerge on the other side. You rebuild as a stronger, more conscious, more authentic man. You have the chance to create future relationships based on real mutual respect, where you are not a drained resource, but a man being honored. You reclaim your identity, your purpose, your autonomy. You live the years you have left as a free man, not as a domesticated servant. Mark had no choice because he didn't know he was in a trap until it was too late. You still have a choice, and that is the only advantage you have over him. Wait, it gets worse. Because here's the final truth that will completely break your resistance. You already know all of this is true. Deep down, beneath all the rationalizations and denials, you already feel that something is fundamentally wrong. You already perceive that you are no longer who you used to be. You already notice that you avoid certain subjects, that you self-censor, that you calculate every word before speaking in your own home. You already recognize that knot in your stomach when she looks at you with thinly veiled contempt. You've already admitted to yourself, in moments of darkness at 3 in the morning, that you are not happy, that you feel trapped, that something has died inside you. You know. You always knew. The only question is whether you will have the courage to act on what you know. What are you waiting for? For her to wake up one day and spontaneously decide to respect you without you changing anything? For the system to suddenly become fair? For society to stop programming you to be a domestic servant? Nothing will change unless you change. No one is coming to save you. There is no external intervention that will solve this for you. Either you act or you accept that you will live and die as a broken man. A cautionary tale for the next generation that will be ignored because they too are conditioned not to see. There are 2 types of men reading this right now. The first closes this page, feels a residual discomfort for a few hours, but by tomorrow has completely rationalized it away and returned to familiar patterns of denial. He will tell himself that this is exaggerated, that the author is bitter, that his relationship is different, that he just needs to communicate better or love harder. He will continue giving in, testing, failing, shrinking. And in 10 or 20 years, when he is alone in a small apartment, paying alimony to a woman who despised him and has lost access to the children she turned against him, he will vaguely remember having read something like this once, and he will wonder briefly if it would have made a difference to act when he still had time. And then he will push that thought down because it's too late, and the pain of recognizing that he chose his own destruction through inaction is unbearable. The second type of man feels something different. Anger, yes, fear, certainly, but also an awakening, a recognition. A spark of determination he thought he had lost years ago. He doesn't yet know exactly what he will do. He is terrified of the implications. But something inside him, something that was buried but never completely dead, is beginning to resurface. He feels the first breath of freedom in years, and he decides, even if it's a decision trembling with fear and uncertainty, that he will not die as a broken man. That he would rather face the hell of reclaiming his autonomy than the slow death of continuing as he is. Which one are you? Don't tell me. Don't tell anyone. You will prove it through actions or the absence thereof. You have one life. One. The clock is ticking as you read this. Every day you remain trapped is a day you will never get back. Every year that passes leaves you older, with less energy, less time, fewer opportunities to rebuild. Your son is watching you learn how a man should act in a relationship. Your daughter is learning how she can treat men in the future. You are teaching the next generation that male submission is normal, that female disrespect is acceptable, that men exist to be drained. Is that what you want as your legacy? And if you don't have children, do you think that makes it less urgent? How old are you? 30, 40, 50? How many good years do you have left? 10? 20 at most? And are you going to waste them living like a ghost in your own life? Every morning you wake up next to someone who respects you less with each passing day. Every night you fall asleep feeling that something vital is missing. Time is passing. Your body is aging. Your opportunities are diminishing. One day, sooner than you think, you will run out of time. And what will you have done with the only life you had? Survived? Kept the peace? Avoided confrontation? Waited for things to get better on their own? Mark thought he had time. He thought he would resolve it eventually. He thought things would get better when the children grew up, when his career stabilized, when she finally felt he had proven his love enough. He was wrong. Time ran out. He is 45, completely alone, financially devastated, mentally broken, and doesn't even have a genuine relationship with his own children. His best years were stolen. His identity was erased. His essence was consumed. And there's no reset button. There's no way to get those 20 years back. He exists now only to work and pay for a life that is no longer his. Do you really want that future? Because that's where you're heading. With every test you fail, you are writing another line of that story. With every boundary you let be violated, you are building that prison one brick at a time. With every day you postpone acting because it's scary or difficult, you are ensuring that when you are finally forced to act, it will be too late to save anything significant. But there is still time. You are still breathing. You still have agency, even if you feel like you don't. You can still choose a different path. It won't be easy. It will be the hardest thing you've ever done. It will require courage you don't know you have. It will demand that you face fears you've spent years avoiding. But on the other side is something you forgot was possible: real freedom. The ability to make decisions without consulting or asking permission. The simple pleasure of doing something just because you want to. The peace of being alone with yourself without feeling like something is missing. The possibility of finding a partner who genuinely respects you because you respect yourself. The chance to rebuild a life that is authentically yours. You deserve this. Not because you are perfect or because you did everything right. You made mistakes. You were complicit in your own imprisonment through years of concessions. You failed to maintain boundaries you should have defended. You allowed yourself to be molded into something less than you could be. But none of that means you deserve to spend the rest of your life trapped. It just means you were operating with incomplete information, with deep conditioning you didn't choose, in a system rigged against you from the start. Now you have better information. The question is whether you will have the courage to act on it. You don't need to have everything figured out. You don't need a perfect plan. You don't need to feel completely confident. You just need to take the first step. Document the next manipulation. Set a small boundary and hold it. Call that friend you abandoned. Open that separate account. Consult that lawyer. Any action, even small, that asserts your autonomy and breaks the pattern of constant submission is a step out of prison. And each step will become easier, not because the resistance will diminish, but because you will be strengthening yourself. Men who have survived this and rebuilt their lives all say the same thing. They regret not having acted sooner. None of them say, "I should have endured more. I should have sacrificed more. I should have tried harder to make it work." They all say, "I should have seen it sooner. I should have left as soon as I recognized the pattern. I wasted precious years denying reality." You are now receiving the warning they didn't have. You are seeing the pattern laid bare. You have the opportunity to act before you lose 1 or 2 additional decades. The choice is yours. It always has been. You can choose to continue as you are, and in 10 years you will be an older, more broken, more embittered version of yourself, having recovered nothing but lost much. Or you can choose to act now, face the brutal costs of reclaiming your freedom, go through short-term hell, and emerge on the other side as a whole man again. Neither choice is easy, but one choice has a future. The other has only a long, slow, inevitable decline until death is a relief. The clock is ticking. Your life is passing. Every second you spend in denial is a second you will never get back. You can waste them all rationalizing why acting is too scary, or you can use some of them to start building a way out. She doesn't love you. She never loved you in the way you understand love. She evaluated you, tested you, considered you a useful resource, and when you consistently failed her tests, she despised you while continuing to use you. That's not love. That's biological transaction disguised as romance. You deserve real love, real respect, real partnership. And you will never have that as long as you remain where you are. The choice is yours. But choose quickly. Time doesn't wait. And one day, sooner than you think, it runs out. The only question is whether you spent that time living as a free man or dying as a trapped man.